Welcome to the Mind of Business Success podcast. I'm your host, Alicia Kramer. Our guest today is Chris Staffeldt. Let's talk about getting the edge in your life. Welcome to the show, Chris.
Thank you, Alicia. It's great to be here.
It's great to have you on. You are a fantastic human being, and you really do have a powerful, positive mission. So I'm looking forward to sharing that with our audience today. Why don't we kick things off by telling our audience what you're doing? Tell us about the Life Edge.
Yeah, so the Life Edge is an educational platform that vets out online courses, coaches, and mentors. And our goal, our mission is to help people learn, grow, and succeed. Now, that covers a broad spectrum of categories, anything from business, cooking, dancing, coding, you name it. We offer course creators and educators that just are with the goal of helping you become the best version of yourself, whether you're trying to make a life transformation or you're just trying to improve your hobby. It doesn't matter. We really want to help and serve you.
I love that you mentioned that you're vetting, because when the first time we talked, that was sort of a vetting process, right?
Yeah.
You were vetting me, I was vetting you. There was a lot of vetting going on. But it was a really good thing because there are no shortage of coaches, consultants, programs, and every one of us knows that they're not all created equal. Yep. Not every coach is going to deliver the same quality of service. Not all of them have the natural talents and abilities. Some people are really good at marketing, but when it comes to actually delivering transformation, there is a huge disconnect. And you're helping to make it so that people can find high quality sources for transformation, learning, and growth. And I absolutely love that. That's so incredibly respectable. I want to talk about that from your perspective and what you see as you're out there kind of sifting and sorting and doing that due diligence.
Yeah, so the vetting process has grown and evolved. Obviously, as we've learned more, we grow more, and we've figured out better ways of getting to the information we need. And there's a lot out there. Anyone and everyone can create a course, can create a coaching program. And I realized this early on in my journey because I started using online courses and online coaches to get to where I am today to build the Life Edge. Like, who would we'd be hypocrites if we weren't using our own product, right? And so through that journey, I realized that I was paying a lot of money for people who were offering zero value, and I was paying a little bit of money for people who were offering a ton of value. And we wanted to help people sift through that because for some people, this may be the only course or coach they ever purchase because they just may not have a lot of money. And if that's a bad experience because there's just no value there, they may be turned off by the thing that could actually help change their life and move them into a different realm, a different future. And so, right initially when we started out, it was really difficult to vet out these courses and the coaches because we weren't very legit. So it was almost seen as like who are these people coming in thinking that they're going to tell me my content is good or not? And as we've grown, it's really evolving into its own process where we're even getting to a point now where we're offering a certain service for the course creators and the educators where we come in and we make like a full-on expose on who they are, what is the good in their course, what is the bad in the course. We recommend suggestions. We interview their negative reviews. We're really trying to make the programs as transparent as possible so that the user can make the best decision possible. Now, there is one thing to balance that we had to learn how to balance is that when it comes to coaching, especially coaching, people have personalities, right? And just because your personality doesn't match the coach doesn't mean they don't have good value, that there isn't an audience out there for them. And so there's some of those things we've had to learn as we've gone through this process is maybe the negative reviews were personality based, and those that we can connect with and get answers from, we can determine whether or not that's been the situation. And it may not be an unfair comment, it's just that, or an unfair review, it's just that people's personalities didn't match. And we even see that in a lot of the online courses as well, because people have different learning styles. And so we've had to figure out how to be as objective as possible. And it's been a journey. Maybe we cast aside some people that maybe necessarily now, with the process we go through now, is would make it and would pass that. And we're going to have to go through and revisit some of those programs and courses. But that's just all part of venturing into this new world that really didn't exist, because there isn't anyone out there quite doing what we're trying to do here, which is to make sure that if you're going to spend your money to get a course or a coach, that you are going to get the most out of it possible.
I love what you're doing and I love watching your evolution. There are probably so many people listening who are like, where were you when I started my journey? It is almost cliche for coaches and consultants to almost brag about how much money they've spent on coaches and mentors and programs. And you're always going to hear almost, I don't know what the percentage is. This is completely not a statistical reference, just a disclaimer. I would say probably like 90% of people in their rant about how much money they've spent have said something to the effect of most of it was just wasted. Now, occasionally you'll have somebody who is a bit more conscious, a little bit more enlightened, a little bit more about taking personal responsibility, and they will kind of take a different stance and they'll say, I always learned something. I always grew. I always found some way that I could, gain something from that. But the majority are saying this guru here had this course that sounded amazing and it was 20 or 30 or $50,000. Like in the case of some masterminds, you're spending a lot of money on these things and you get in there and you're like, okay, well, this is all stuff that I've already learned. This is nothing new. It's just you putting a premium price on some offering and then doing a really damn good job of selling it.
Yep.
And that's painful. We've all been there to some extent, to varying degrees. Some people have had the high ticket, hits, and some people have just, dabbled a little bit here, a little bit there. But like you said, not everybody's budget is so open and free that they can be like, oh, just, a few $100 here, and I didn't get anything out of it.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about your journey specifically. Let's go there. Let's go down the rabbit hole.
Well, we have to go back quite a few years, probably. Let's see, we're approaching a little over 10 years now. So I'm actually a welder by trade. That's what I went to school for. And I went and got a job out of trade school, and I was doing well and I excelled. And I hit about 25, 26 years old, because trade school was only 9 months. So I was in the job market as an 18-year-old. So I had a lot of opportunity to grow. While most of my friends were still in college and hadn't even had their first job yet. Well, at 25, 26 years old, I'm peaking out in my capacity at at what I'm doing. And there wasn't much opportunity for me to go anywhere else in the job I was in. And even if I tried to make a lateral move, the only thing I could have done was like pick up another welding job on the weekends or something. And there just wasn't, I could see like 25 years out, where am I going to be? Still being a welder, making this amount of wages. Now I was a darn good welder, but it didn't justify $250,000, $300,000, $400,000 a year, which is at the time, like, that's what I wanted. That's what I was aspiring to get to. And so I needed to make a change, which meant I had to start learning some stuff. And initially, I went back to school because we were all told like college is the only answer. That's the only way that you can make this big change. And so I started attending night classes. And when I found myself teaching my calculus class, and the professor was just kind of sitting off of the side, and anytime anyone had a question, he would just say, well, go ask Chris. Like, this is not the route I'm going. This is not going to work. And on top of that, once I get out, and because I was going to school to get my CFA, and once I get out, I've got another 10 years of working myself up from the bottom to get to where I want to, even to where I was at already, to the position I was going to be leaving. And I didn't see giving up 10 years of my life to be in the same place I was. And so I had to find an alternative, and online courses and online programs were that opportunity. And so I started purchasing online courses. And like you said, you start spending some money. Well, I spent close to 10 grand on this course, and I learned, like I learned what the educator was teaching, and I started making money with it and started making some changes. But later on, I found out that there was another course out there that was $2,500 that I ended up buying anyways, that was going to, that actually I made more money with and learned faster. And this was when my wheels started turning of like, there's all these courses out there, but there's no way of finding them. Sure, you have Masterclass and you have Udemy and Coursera and some of these other platforms out there, but those don't work for the people that are represented on our platform, because they've already built their brands. And on Udemy, it's hard to sell a $30,000 mastermind, and Masterclass is a completely different business model. So we really wanted to start filling that gap. And so that's really the evolution of the Life Edge and how we got to where we are today with vetting out these courses and coaches. And for me, like, it gets a little more personal. If you want to go there, there's kind of a deeper meaning for it, but I don't know if that's where you want to head.
Well, one of the things that I love to talk about on this podcast is that mindset journey that we're all on. There's a lot of internal things that go on in the evolution of an entrepreneur. So
we could spend a couple hours on that.
Perhaps we can go into that a little bit, because you recognized, a few things. The path that you were on in terms of your career was limited, and you were craving expansion. And that is pretty common for a lot of entrepreneurs and business owners. There is an innate desire for expansion, to not be boxed in. In many cases, we don't make very good employees. But there's also a lot of stuff that has to change within us to become a successful business owner. When you make that transition from a job, even a job that is commission-based, for instance, there's still a mindset shift that has to occur in order to grow into the successful individual that you want to be. We're bumping up against our fears, our doubts, our insecurities, our limiting beliefs. And we have to kind of come to terms with some of our own, not so great qualities, and work through those things to be a better boss and a better spouse and a better parent, and to be able to grow financially and to find the balance so that we're not just workaholics. So there's a lot of different moving pieces to really start to thrive as a business owner. When it comes to your own personal, deeper meaning, I'm just curious if there was a little bit of some mindset stuff going on there, some things that you needed to address and work through and shift in order to get through to the other side of that.
There was some major changes that had to happen. So when I was working as the welding manager in this manufacturing facility, I was perfectly okay with being an entrepreneur. I would have been at that time in my life, had there been opportunity to keep climbing that ladder, I think I would have continued down that path. Not to say it's a right or wrong decision, but hitting that wall for me is what forced me into this rediscovering and having to get over some of the limiting beliefs that I had in my own life. Now, I was very analytical. I've always been decent with numbers and math. And that was the kind of Achilles heel in my entrepreneur journey, was the fact that I could see where I was headed on a very linear path. And that did not get me to the life that I wanted. And so something had to change because I was unhappy. My wife was unhappy. And the only way out is for me to make the change. Nobody else was going to do it for me. And so I had to realize that I was capable of success because I grew up with a good family, and my dad worked hard. My parents worked very hard to provide for us, but we grew up very average. Now, because of that, I always felt that that was my entire life. Like I wasn't going to amount to much. If I went out and got a good job and provided for my family, that's what I considered a success. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I realized at 25, 26 years old, when I had been doing that for a couple of years, that if I got to the end 30 years from there and that's still where I was at, that was not a success for me anymore because I had too much to offer the world, and I had potential, and I've always felt that I've had potential, but I didn't believe that I was capable of reaching that potential. And so that was really the biggest shift that I had to make, was understanding that I can literally do anything I want, and I can create anything I want if I'm willing to work hard enough, long enough, and learn more. Like, that was honestly the biggest thing holding me back, was I just didn't have the education. And so I went a different form of education. I went podcast, YouTube videos, and online courses. And I found mentors, but the mentors are the same mentors that everybody could have. I found people that were putting content on YouTube that was speaking to me, that was helping me question my beliefs, how I thought about things, and really just kind of shift my entire belief system.
That's powerful.
Yeah.
Right there, you just dropped a gold nugget. That is such a big piece of the breaking free success formula. You expand your mind. How can you identify where you yourself are holding you back?
Yeah.
Sometimes we don't even see what is literally right in front of our face because it's so familiar, it's so known, we're so accustomed to it, we're so acclimated to those limiting beliefs that you cannot break that trance until you see or hear something that causes you to challenge that belief. And you're not going to do that in a little bubble. You have to find
Yeah.
those people that you resonate with, the people that you know are trustworthy, they're honest, they have integrity, and they're helping you to expand your mind.
Mm. Yeah. And mentors, coaches have been some of the, like, probably 90% of the change and the growth that I've been able to experience in my life, but also in business, because you don't know what you don't know, and you need somebody who's going to call you out when you need it. And we all need it as much as we think we don't. Some of the biggest, or the most, some of the most growth that has happened in my business and in my life has been when somebody's called me out on stuff. And that is so underrated, I think, right now. I think a lot of people underrate coaches and underrate mentors. And just one, like, PSA, this is a question I get a lot, is how do you find a mentor? How do you discover a mentor? Well, Mentors want to help people that are already trying to change themselves. So if you're not figuring out ways that you can grow and ways that you can expand your mind, then and proving that you're doing that, then you're not going to find somebody who actually wants to speak into it. Now, you may get lucky every once in a while that happens, but for on average, you have to start that process and then the mentors will come.
I love that. All right, Chris. So we've seeded a bit about the Life Edge, and I really want people to know how they can get there. They can start this self-discovery process for themselves. They can look through some of the different recommendations that you have there on the website. Can you share with our listeners what the URL is for the Life Edge?
Yeah, it's just thelifeedge.com, but there's only one E between life and edge. So thelifeedge.com, how it's spelled out, was already purchased, and I wasn't going to pay what that guy wanted for the domain. So, but if you just Google the Life Edge, we come up as number one. So
awesome. And is there anywhere else you would like our listeners to connect with you?
Yeah, feel free to reach out on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, TikTok, all at the Life Edge.
Awesome. Any final thoughts that you're feeling inspired to share? I don't ask it with every guest, but every once in a while, I'm like, you know what? I think he's got a little something that he could share.
We are entering in a time where you can't be passive in life anymore. And so it's time for people to start learning more about themselves, embracing who they are, and sharing it a bit more to the world.
Love it. Thank you so much, Chris, for being with us today.
Thank you for having me. This is a great conversation. I loved it.
And thank you to all of our listeners. You know we're doing this for you. If you haven't already subscribed, make sure you do so. And until next time, we will see you in the next episode.